So he asked, is my father's death in February 2011 connected to my sister's wedding? Mr. Gerardo, that is a fascinating question. I have never had anybody ask me anything like that. So I don't know what to make of it. Let me take a look and see what I can tell you. Please read the disclaimers though, because I have a feeling this is going to get heavy. You know, the thing is too, like the thing that I'm getting, Mr. Gerardo, and I might be sticking my foot in my mouth right now, but the sense I get right away is that you think his death might have been a consequence of that wedding, not that her wedding's coming up or anything like that. Give me a second and I'll start in on this. I just got to clear and start in. By the way, grounding tip for everyone out there. If you're doing a lot of readings in a row, you have to adopt a grounding technique, something to flush out the last reading and prepare for the next. And coffee helps, but the I have a lot of different things, especially as a male reader, you have to really be mechanical about flushing out emotions, fleshing out old readings, all that stuff. I have an image that's been in my head since I was in 8th grade of energy flowing out through my body and out through the bottom of my feet and into the ground. But I also have the advantage of having a radiator in this office. This is an old building I'm in right now. And so I get to reach over and touch the radiator and ground myself because all these pipes go way deep down into the ground. It's awesome. So I can hold on to this radiator here just behind me and feel like all sorts of tensions in all over my body just letting go and unwinding. It's the greatest thing. It's really great. So if you're doing back-to-back readings, make sure that you adopt a grounding technique of some kind, not just because it's good for the next person who you do a reading for, but because it's good for your health. Because if you carry this stuff around forever, you start getting sick. That's not so good. As it is, I'm probably gonna sleep like a baby tonight. Um, Mr. Rodro added, I had an aunt, cousin, and then my father died after the wedding. Okay, so I didn't stick my foot in my mouth. All right, good. Let's take a look and see. The one thing that came to mind to say to you right away was that um, if the wedding happened right after they died, it wouldn't have stopped the deaths from rolling. So likewise, the wedding having happened just before wasn't necessarily the cause. These things might be just two unrelated things. But I want to take your question seriously and not just assume that there isn't a relationship. Not that I've ever heard of that happening, but that doesn't mean I don't know everything. So let me look. I honestly don't even know where to start. This is the weirdest thing. 7 cards with 4 on top. And because I'm looking at how your dad felt when the time came and he was like so I'm specifically, by the way, I know you talked about other relatives. Yeah, you said, yeah, I know it was before they died. I was just saying that theoretically, if it was after, there wouldn't have been a causal link there either. So let's just not assume a causal link, but let's look and see if there was. This seems to be this top thing is about what was going on with your dad as he finished up and moved on. Sorry, that's my euphemism for died. That's how I look at it. It's just you finish up your business in this world and it's time to move on. To a certain extent, he felt very much like, yeah, there was a couple things going on with him. What the whole decision to move on, we all make it. We all decide to go, which seems to the conscious mind ridiculous and to the body insane. Why would any of us ever move on? Why do any of us ever die? I mean, let alone get old. It's crazy. Um, but to the spiritual body, it's logical. Um, and the spiritual body was acquiescing to a request of the mental body to stick around until the marriage happened. He really wanted to see this, and he knew about it before she did. Like intuitively, there was a thing in him that said that she was going to be getting married um, before he was actually even told that she was even seeing anyone. Like his intuition was barking at him, saying that this wedding was coming up, and he really wanted to see it. So he was holding on because he wanted to see that before he moved on. But there was a lot of reason, without getting into too much detail. He hung on for longer than he would have. Um, had the wedding never happened, he would have gone a lot sooner rather than later. Um, Not necessarily for the same reasons. Something else would have come along to take him away. Um, but actually, he hung out. He hung out for longer in order to see the wedding. Um, that wasn't necessarily the case for everybody else. Just for him, for his particular situation. Um, it was actually the other way around. Um, and actually, the systems were in place and so entrenched to keep him around that it took a while. So he wasn't able to go as quickly after the wedding as the plan would have normally. It kind of lasted a little while longer than expected. But that's okay. You know, the thing is, he got done what he needed to get done in this life. Um, he, this is the trick with him because he had a tick sheet of lessons to learn. The reason he was born, like just as a baby, he had a list of things he needed to accomplish in this life of things he wanted to suffer and things he wanted to be exalted with, and just like all this stuff. He had this whole list of things, and he wanted to help bring you into the world. That was a thing you guys had worked out, and all this stuff. And he'd done it all. He'd managed the whole list. And by the time he found out about this wedding, he was already on what I call vacation time, which is like that time in your life where you've done everything you were supposed to do in the world, and now you're just hanging out because you wanna, because you just feel like it. There's some fun to have. So that's the mode he was in when he passed on, and actually even before the wedding. Having said that, I mean, I know it doesn't seem like he was having all that much fun, but but anyway, the point is, um, that he'd accomplished his life's mission. Like it was well and proper done. He did a good job getting done what he was born to do. Um, Even though people won't write books about it, it was important to him, and to the people that he loved and that loved him. So yeah, yeah, he did a good job. Um, but yeah, I mean, like he was supposed to pass on quite a bit before the wedding, and he hung on just to see it because he loves you guys, and he thought it'd be a nice thing. Um, as far as this stuff goes, this doesn't actually have to do with him. This has to do with the thing you're sensing, the weather you're sensing, the spiritual weather around the wedding, and other people passing on soon after. what was that? Because you sensed something real. That, let's see, who was it now? He said an aunt and a cousin passed on as well. Man, all those people all at once. That must have been hard for you, man. I'm really sorry. I forgot to say I'm sorry at the beginning. I'm sorry. I deal with death so often lately. I consider it so normal. During a reading, I forget that it's traumatic, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That must have been really hard for you, man. Um, but anyway, there was a kind of a momentum, right? A strangeness about everyone checking out all at once. And it was all I can really say about it that would make any sense to you. To put it in, to find the language for this, it maybe is just that, um, again, these were people who were ready. I mean, maybe not mentally ready, and they had people they loved that they did not want to leave. I mean, I'll give you that. That's for sure. I mean, these are people who didn't want to abandon their families. I mean, it's not on that level, but from a spiritual perspective, I mean, we all have to go. We all have to go eventually, and God helps determine the most graceful, peaceful, perfect way for that to happen. And He opened a door, and they walked through it. I mean, it was really just like that. Um, you have more comments on that, but I haven't read them yet. I'm sorry, but I did want to, before I read your comments, just complete that thought that there was no malice or evil behind this weather. Okay, it was very much just like about as much malice as there is like a tornado or an earthquake. It's just a thing that happened. It's a thing bigger than us that we don't necessarily like, but it's not evil. It's just a thing, you know, and we deal with it as we deal with it. Sorry. Okay, so let me read your note. You said, I felt we inherited a curse or hex since the wedding. I mean, I understand how it can feel that way. And if you start looking for it, it'll start to look that way because you're looking for it. The brain is an amazing pattern matching machine. In fact, that's its primary function is to match patterns. So if you start looking for signs of it being a curse, you will find those signs. Um, but I do want you to look at it more like an ink blot than a specific picture. It just is what it is. Um, I talked about God opening a door, but strictly speaking, I don't want to necessarily lead you down that path either, because it's you start getting mad at God. um, but really, it's just weather. It's just weather. It just is what it is. Your job is to prepare for the bad weather when good weather comes, and to watch for the good weather. And when good weather comes, jump on it. Really take advantage of it. That's your job. But there is no sign in any of this, all this information that coming at me from there's more cards than I've used in a like in a spread in this pattern. It's very stable, but it's very clear to me that there is no sign of an evil influence or a, a punishment. No punishment. Nothing like that. You're not um, a victim here. Okay, none of you are. It's just well, sorry, you're not a victim of a perpetrator. Sorry, I don't mean to belittle your suffering because you legit you are. This is not pleasant, but it's in that same way of like if you were walking through a dark room and you stubbed your toe, the devil didn't do it. It's just what happened, you know? So it's on that level, and that's tough. It's maybe even harder to make peace with than a curse because there's nobody to be angry at. So if you're angry, and part of grieving is getting angry, how can you not be? It's frustrating to have your whole worldview shattered. I've been through it a few times this year. Uh, Maybe I'll share. My grandmother passed this year or last year. Well, I guess it's January now, right? Late last year. And that was not easy for me because she was very much a part of my life. And it's hard for me to understand a world without her. And yeah, anger is part of that. I spent a lot of time being angry. And you want to be able to aim that anger at something so that it'll go away. You say it's that thing's fault. All you can do is just surf. You can just take the experience for what it is and mourn as best you can. Um, I am not the expert when it comes to dealing with this process, but what I would encourage you to do is to engage in the mourning process as a process and to look into the mourning process because there are experts in it, because we all have to deal with it eventually. Unfortunately, none of us are immortal, and so we have to deal with this fact of life of people passing away. And we want to assign meaning to it because it is the biggest goddamn thing that's ever happened to us. It is. It's huge. These people are that mean everything to us are not here anymore. It must mean something. We want it to because it's changed everything for us. But no, it really doesn't. It's just life's inevitability. And we have to make peace with it on that level. I kind of feel, Mr. Gerardo, like that has covered it. But if you want me to clarify or expand on any of those points, please do ask that question right now in chat. If that's clear to you, though, let me know. I'm going to leave this there for a little while. And if somebody else had a question, this might be an appropriate time to type it in. Even if I don't get to it right away, I'll be able to see it because the pace is really good right now. I'm just going to take a second out to let Mr. Gerardo give him the opportunity to type a response and have a sip of my coffee here. Okay, I've heard others say this as well, that it's not a curse, so you've confirmed it. All right, fair enough. Mr. Toronto, I want to tell you as well, one last little thing. If it was a curse, I'd have told you. I have had situations in the past where someone is in that peculiarity, or they're kind of being targeted by something or someone. It's rare, though. It's super, super, super rare. But I mean, if it was happening, I'd tell you. Don't worry. I don't. I'm not shy about it. It just is what it is. It is super, super rare. I do want to say to be really, really cautious of anyone who claims that you're cursed. It is the most cliche gypsy trick in the world to tell you you're cursed, but I can help you. Pay an extra $200 and you can have this blessed candle that will take your curse away. That sounds ridiculous, but it's the most common scam in the world. And people who like there's I live in a relatively small city and there's people in this town that do that. I won't name names because it's indecent, but in any case, you know, anybody who tells you you're cursed, be suspicious of them. They might be taking you for a ride. Having said that, I will never sell you a blessed candle to take your curse away. So don't worry. Um, yeah. So okay, cool. Yeah, and you know what? I can't blame you for noticing the coincidence, especially when you're already emotionally distraught and you're looking for meaning, and then another person dies, and then another person dies, I can't blame you at all for thinking that that would make sense. Totally natural, and I'm glad that I was able to help with lending a little bit of clarity to that.